Alberta coal restriction policy. And I believe all the members of council have received that this morning. It'll go under G4.2.
Anything else? Seeing none, could we have a motion to approve as amended? Thanks, Ken. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Adoption of the minutes. And I do see one error, and that's on page 2, and for subdivision application 2021-0-38 Wong, there's no mover.
Oh.
Did you do that? I can't remember. I was going to look it up and I forgot. Where? Sorry, wrong one. Yeah, E3. E3. No, we just need, somebody moved it. It's just not recorded.
We'll go back and look it up.
Okay.
I moved it.
Did you?
Us.
Yeah.
Oh. So that was E3. Okay. And just one other question, and that was under the delegations. You didn't mention the other people who were joined in the meeting. Just mentioned the people from Link Pathway.
Yeah, we should have everybody mentioned who spoke.
Yeah.
So we have those notes, right?
Yeah.
We'll correct that.
Anything else? And again, could we have a motion as amended? Clause? Any further discussion? Seeing none, those in favor, opposed, carried. Department reports. G1, Municipal Services.
Good morning. Good morning, Council.
Morning.
My first report is from the Chinook Arch Regional or Chinook Arch Library Board system with regards to the current agreement. So a letter has been received from the board stating that municipal affairs will no longer be publishing their population data, and rather that the Finance and Treasury Board will publish an annual population estimate. Within the current agreement, there's a clause that states that membership fees will be based on the most recent population figures as published by Municipal Affairs. So therefore, this change of legislation has prompted the Library Board to revise the current agreement to align with the new legislation, and also to make some updates within the agreement as far as wording and other aspects go. Overall, the agreement itself doesn't have a lot of significant changes, I suppose, other than the population one. However, in order to amend this agreement, or to have it pass, 2/3 of the members, representing 2/3 of the overall service population, must approve the changes with a motion of council. If the agreement is approved, then this will become effective January 1 of 2020. I did speak with the CEO, Robin Heffer.
Sorry,
and
Jen, you said January 1 of
2022, pardon me.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah. And he did say that he is more than willing to attend council himself if you have any further questions or want more details on some of the changes, or an update even with regards to the library system. As you know, the library system was incorporated in 1992 under the Alberta Libraries Act, and the county has been a member since 2005. We've made annual contributions of over 100,000 annually per the agreement. So in 2029, was $111,088. 2020, it was $112,744. And sorry, I should have put the 2021 budget in there, and I forgot to do that, so. Although it is not yet known how the Treasury Board will determine the annual population estimates, since the county already budgets for this contribution annually and implements a bit of an increase, there shouldn't be any significant impact to the overall budget moving forward. So administration's recommendation is that Lethbridge County Council approve the Chinook Arch Regional Library System Agreement as revised to be effective January 1 of 2022.
Questions or comments? So who other, oh,
One question, so what's the real purpose of changing it? What is your feel? Because it doesn't make sense to me that we change that. Because that's what you need, is that when you do a survey, you need a population of it, there you go.
I don't actually know what the reasoning is. I'm guessing that because we only do census every 4 years, maybe they're estimating that population growth is more accurate if they do an estimate.
Just, Tori sits on the board, so he may have some.
Thank you. I don't have a whole much more insight into that, Morris. I know this was just something that came up at our last board meeting, that the board was, we were made aware that this change was coming down the pipe from the provincial government, and that essentially they just let us know that a report would be coming to our councils to indicate that the change was coming, and that although we don't anticipate any huge changes, any huge impacts, any impacts really to the member municipalities, that this was a change that the province was making, and we had to adapt accordingly, just so that we are all speaking the same language.
so just a question, do the school boards or school districts pay into the library board fund?
I don't believe so.
Because I see they're listed under 2.1, so I just wasn't sure.
I know the school boards don't sit as members on the board. If there is a financial component to that, I'm not aware.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? Yep, go ahead.
Would you like me to invite the CEO as a delegation or speak with him? He did offer to come in. He mentioned that because the new agreement doesn't need to be in place till January 1st of 2022, there is time. If council would be interested in getting some further information or an update from him directly.
But, in some respects, it probably would be maybe good if he came and did a little presentation to give us a little better understanding. I would have no objections to that unless... Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So a lot of other grants from municipal affairs would be population-based too, aren't they? So would it affect other grants as well that municipalities receive from the province that you're aware of?
I haven't seen anything else come in. There are a lot of grants that are based on a per capita, but I think the province and feds mainly stick with census numbers for the most part.
So any further discussion? If not, we could use a motion to invite the man if you want to, or just to pass it, whatever you'd like. Yep, Klaus?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So it was incorporated in 1992, so why did Lethbridge County not become a member earlier than 2005?
I do not have that answer. I apologize. That Rob and the CEO may be able to or Lauren?
I kind of think that was when they all sort of came under one umbrella, because it seems like there was a Chinook Regional Library Board and there was another library board, and I think that they all kind of joined in together, and that's when we joined that. I think that's how it was, because we did contribute before to one, and I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, see, that's actually my question, did we do something before that? And so then, if they incorporated at that time, then I understand the reason why I took that.
Well, there used to be this other card like you could get in Lethbridge that entitled you to go to different libraries, where in the county, if you had a library card, you couldn't go to the Lethbridge library and get a book, or vice versa. But under this new system, you could go anywhere and get something. So we were in the county side, but not the other side, and Coaldale. It seems like Coaldale, was it Picture Butte, were different too. One of them was different than, because it was kind of all over the board. Yeah, something like that. It was bizarre, kind of like AGT used to have when they're, if you lived in Picture Butte, you had to pay long distance to phone Coaldale.
Yeah.
Kind of stupid thing, stuff like that.
So the only libraries that are in the county is Coaldale and Picture Butte.
As far as I know, yeah. Jen?
I do recall from within the program that you can access books or I think DVDs or whatever the library offers from other libraries within the system. So maybe Picture Butte might not have what you're looking for, but they could bring it in from Claresholm or another municipality that's within this group. I believe that's correct.
Yeah, and then one other question I got is, you can look anything up online these days. I mean, we don't. So what is really the purpose of having the library yet? Are there still a lot of people that don't have access to the communication that we all have?
Tori?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was one of my questions when I first came on council. I was on the Coaldale Library Board as well as the Chinook Arch Library Board, and that was one of my first questions. Have you heard of the internet? And don't say that to a group of people that are passionate about libraries, because they set me straight in a big hurry. The amount of books that are moving through the system every day is actually quite mind-boggling. When you think of the territory down from Waterton out east and west and then up, it's remarkable how many books or physical books are actually moving. People still want to have the actual feel of the book in their hand. And that's a big part of it, but another big part of it is what Chinook Arch does is providing the IT services to all the smaller libraries, so giving access to internet, giving access to training, job preparation. There's people at the Chinook Arch that work in those areas and then work with the member libraries, with the librarians to offer those services. So there is a lot going on, and I think that's a really natural question. But it's quite amazing how in demand, and even through the pandemic, the pressure they saw in the system with people at home, kids at home, and stuff like that. It was quite remarkable how much they had to step up.
Kind of furthers your question, Claus. I know that, and I can't say about the ones in the county, but certainly Lethbridge Public Library, it's unbelievable the number of people who go there to use the internet service because they don't have either a good one or they don't have it. So what would you like to do here? Do you want the gentleman to come in, or do you just want to, what do you want to do? Claus?
If it's only the question why we changed the number, the count number, we can also just ask that question, I guess, and then he doesn't have to come in for that unless we have more questions.
I can definitely reach out to him again.
Okay, yeah, Ann?
And maybe a suggestion too, Jen, when you reach out, if we can just find out a little bit more background to answer Councillor Vanderveen's question about a little historical background on the county and how we got involved in this and why and when.
Okay.
Claus?
Okay, then I'll move that, that we ask him to come in.
Sorry, that you would like him to come in? Okay.
Any further discussion? Call for the question. Those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Financial report for the first quarter from January to April.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the financial report ending April 30th, 2021. I did make a few changes to the layout of the report for this meeting. Just hopefully council likes it and we can continue to adapt it. So on page 2 of the report, I started with a bit of a budget summary update. So this is some changes or announcements that have been made or that the municipality or county is aware of that have happened since budget was approved. So in February, or on February 12th, and council is aware of this one, Municipal Affairs contacted the county with regards to a new funding program called the Municipal Operations Support Transfer, or MOST program. So this program was brought forward to provide municipalities some one-time funding assistance with regards to lost revenues or expenses that were incurred due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So the county has received $1,053,000 in change under this program. We had to submit our statement of financial expenditures to Municipal Affairs on March 31st, which has been done, which they will evaluate, and we likely will have to pay back a portion of this. So once we know what the final figure is, we will can apply that against some outstanding I guess accounts and things like that that we have in the queue. We do not have to pay this money back either when and if those accounts get cleared by the property owner or utility account, whichever it may be. So I don't have a final number there yet. I just know what we were expected to receive. And like I said, we're just waiting to get the report back from the province on the final figure.
So Jen, when you say if somebody pays their outstanding balance, we may not have to pay it back to the government, what qualified for the $1 million?
So I'm not sure how they calculated this number because we hadn't provided anything. So every municipality got a portion. I don't know the calculation on that. I do know that we submitted all of our outstanding tax roll accounts as part of our COVID portion, which including some outstanding oil and gas, which we are pretty sure we're not going to be able to collect on a majority of, was upwards of $800,000. So if they accept that and the oil and gas portion, which we're not sure they will, we could definitely cover some of those outstanding tax rolls, which would be great. And then we also submitted our expenditures that we had tracked with regards to PPE and sanitizers and wipes for the pandemic too.
So was there any account taken by them for, people who had to stay at home because either their kids were home and they didn't have any method to deal with that, or they, maybe had sick children, or they themselves have been in contact with somebody? Is there anything in the government's, this $1 million, that accounts for that?
They didn't really speak to staffing within that. It was just more expenses incurred, like if we had to put up plexiglass at the front to protect the staff from people coming into the office, things like that. It didn't, actual staffing itself, no.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions on that? Okay.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so another notice from the province that we received after budget was with regards to the resource management grant. It was not, we did not receive funding in 2020, and we did not anticipate funding in 2021 either, and that is how we budgeted. However, the province did determine that they would renew the remainder of the grant for the rest of the Agriculture Services Legislative Grant period. So we have received the Alberta Resource Grant of $123,000 and the $91,000 from 2020, which we will also receive in 2021 as well. So this gives us an additional $182,000 that was not budgeted for when the budget was approved. But as mentioned at the April 1st meeting, when this was first brought forward, the Ag Services Department is putting a plan in place, or has, to utilize the grant through a collaborative approach, which will include more members of our staff being involved and working with other municipalities and outside agencies to achieve goals and utilize these additional funds. Another impact that we've received, and I know council is aware of this one as well, is with regards to the grant in place of taxes program. So traditionally, the federal and provincial government will pay municipalities through this grant in place of taxes program for properties that they own or are under Her Majesty the Queen within the county. The province, however, has provided correspondence indicating that they are going to be reducing this payment by approximately 50%. So they had done a 25% reduction, I believe, on the 2019, 50% in 2020, and are going to do a further 50% in 2021. So the county levies approximately $580,000 in grant in lieu for the province. Also indicated on the provincial notice that because these are provincially owned properties and ultimately exempt, this revenue is a grant rather than a tax, and it's not necessary for council to make a resolution to do these cancellations. So the county assessor brought this forward also at the last meeting when the tax rate bylaw was passed, and he's identified these properties, and an adjustment will be made. And another item that has come forward even since this report was issued from the this one's from the feds, is they're actually announced that the federal gas tax fund will be doubled. The allocation will be doubled for 2021. So we anticipated our allocation to be at just shy of 620,000. They're now doubling that, so we will get a little bit more than 1.2 million for our 2021 allocation. We do have 5 years in which to utilize these funds, or we can carry them forward for. So Devon was also made aware of this increase to the grants, so I'm sure that as we're looking at capital projects moving forward, we'll have a place for it.
So Jen, do they actually pay you that money every year, or do they only pay you when you've completed a project?
No, the federal gas tax fund, they do advance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Klaus?
So does that mean that we get 2.2 million now?
We get 1.2 for federal gas tax, just
I
over.
thought you said they were going to double it. We
So
got
our
one-
initial allocation is just shy of 620,000, and they doubled that. Yeah. So one thing, and Anne can elaborate on this, is we did have a bit of a discussion just about these kinds of things that come forward, and an organization was just asking for feedback, and from Jeremy and I both, one of our recommendations is if we could have more information or better planning with these grants so municipalities can plan better for their capital projects. You know, like the MSI, historically, they had a 10-year plan attached to that on the allocation, and it was really useful for long-term planning. And the province has pushed for asset management and for 5-year capital budgets, and, you know, it would be nice to know what our allocations were.
Ann?
CAMA, which is Canadian Association of Municipal Administrators, Canada-wide group, is putting together all the information from the various municipalities across the country to kind of push the federal government. And I've heard this for many, many years, that we need stable, predictable infrastructure funding. So even though we put together what we thought and put our proposal forward, I'm cautiously optimistic, I would say. Hopeful that they're going to push this again, but it's been something that's been going on for years. So we've been asking for predictable infrastructure funding for many years, but at least we'll keep trying.
Okay. So if we move on to page 3, I just have the consolidated financial summary here. So this is just a visual of the tax support funding as per the budget, which is used, which is the darker blue, versus what's remaining. So being that it's the first quarter of the year, obviously we're only utilizing a portion of our budget to date. I didn't make a lot of projections as far as surpluses and deficits go at this time. I did reflect the environmental stream grant revenue increase. There has been some increase in penalties that have been earned to date. Our first one being the January 1st penalty, which is a big one. It's at 15%. And those two areas will generate a bit of a surplus, but we'll wait to see as the Ag Services gets going on their programs where that leaves us at the end of the day. Additionally, the Public Works or Public Operations Department activities will begin increasing substantially within the next quarter here as they get into their busiest season. And I've spoke to the provincial funding items that we'll have to bring into consideration, but most of those will be transferred as unearned income until we utilize those funds.
So just a question on utilities, why is it so high for the amount of tax support used already?
So it's showing that way because they have, I guess it kind of is a little bit deceiving in that sense, their activities are higher than their revenues at the time that the report was printed, so it's showing that they've utilized more. It will balance itself out as we get going, so it's just a matter of when we're billed and when we bill out our revenues and expenses within that department.
And also, IT and fleet show no tax support. I know that they get paid from each department, but it's still tax support.
At the end, there is still tax support. I guess it's just transferred to the other departments through services like you had mentioned. So in the budget, it shows that zero tax support is required because it's an internal charge back to the other departments.
But I think it is kind of misleading to the public to say it isn't tax supported, because it certainly is. I mean, everything we do is tax supported.
Yeah, and it does, I guess it does show up as a services by other departments within the budget, so that would be the tax support portion. So if you're looking at the details on the accounts, you would see the services by other departments in, and then and out, the charge out. It doesn't show it. This graph is just a quick summary, a quick visual.
Okay.
So on page 4, it's very similar. This is just kind of a breakdown by department of the tax support. So it just kind of lays this graph out by department, and then below that it does a consolidated one by revenue types, and then expenditures by operating and capital and transfers to reserves.
So Jen, just on that, I'm going to pick on council, you have 646,520, and you're predicting we are going to use all of that, so you got 100% over here, right?
Yeah, as mentioned, I didn't make a lot of projections at this time. It's pretty early in the year to see where we're sitting. I anticipate that council will probably have a surplus if we aren't able to utilize all the budget or attend conferences as they have historically. And I know that council did still take a bit of a decrease due to COVID in the salaries. So for the next report, I'll have more projections set out.
Well, it's not particularly why I'm asking you that in particular, because when I move down to finance and administration, your projected for the whole year is only 75.21%. Yet if you look at actual year-to-dates between council and finance and administration, they're almost identical for the same percentage spent of the budget allocated. So I'm not sure why you dropped down so much on finance and administration at the end.
The reason for that one, Mr. Chairman, I kind of mentioned it in the summary side, was because I know that we already have maximized our tax penalties. We've already, with that 15% levy that we done on the first tax penalty of the year, it was already over and above. We had that much more to charge. And that's why I included in there. Plus, we had a GIC come due, and we got significant interest on that one as well.
Okay.
And then I did below where the grants are included, they're not included above, but I do show that it will be utilized, so that's the intention, is for the grant to be utilized, so it's a kind of coming in and going out.
Go, sorry, Lance.
Jen, with the fleet services and IT, I mean, nothing is shown for that, and you explained why, because it's done in the different departments. Would it be really difficult to show it here too, what the total expenditure is? Because, I mean, I think that would make it more clarified for our taxpayers.
Yep. I can definitely show it in more detail. On page 5, I do break down the expenses by department a bit more clear. So, and fleet does show up on its own, but information technology falls under general administration. So I could break that down further by department, so it shows the total expense.
Yeah, it's not that I want to complicate it for you, but it's just
Nope.
that...
That's easy enough to do. I can just add a few departments there. If page 5 kind of shows how the revenue's coming in and then expense by department, so I can easily break that out further.
Ann?
Just to let you know, our 10 o'clock's here, so if we either want to, if we have a lot more questions for Jen, we can kind of maybe park her and then bring her back, or what are your thoughts on that, Mr. Chair?
Well, are there any more questions on the rest of the report? Or do you want to just break for the RCMP now and come back to this? Okay, let's break for the
Thank you.
RCMP
No,
then.
that's okay.
Yep. Good morning.
Morning. Everybody seems to be distanced for some reason.
We really do like each other.
This is going to be an awkward turnaround, and I guess we got swivel chairs, which is good, eh? Pretty happy because it snows.
Well, good morning and welcome.
Thank you. I can't say I recognize everybody this morning, but then
No,
you,
yeah, I
probably,
know.
you probably don't recognize me either. But
It's the only time in my entire life I've been able to go to the bank with a mask on.
yeah, yeah. My wife's been letting me home without checking ID, so that's been good. So anyway, appreciate your guys' time here this morning. We won't take up too much time. I just wanted to confirm a few things with you folks and talk a little bit about what's happening in the RCMP world. I sent a message out here a short time ago announcing that I'll be retiring here soon. My end date is in around June 2nd or early June. So the RCMP's got a number of processes in place when we talk about succession planning for the detachment commander. The rank that I'm at is a staff sergeant. What we're going to do is look at either a promotion, a sergeant to a promotion position, or bring down a lateral staff sergeant from a different location. The decision on that is always going to be left up to our district office up in Calgary. So I can't tell you too much about the process other than that is the basic process. And I'm sure in due course we'll have a staff sergeant or a person promoted staff sergeant in this chair soon. In the meantime, to my right is Kevin Wright, the detachment commander from the Raymond RCMP detachment. Kevin's been very gracious to come up here on an assignment to fill in. Kevin started here on Monday, and we're going to try to go through some of the stuff that I do day to day and try to bring him up to speed on some of the latest occurrences, so we'll have a fairly smooth transition. Instead of me introducing Kevin, maybe Kevin will get you to introduce yourself. And clearly Kevin's better looking. Sorry about the mask. He's also smarter than I am, so stand back and be impressed.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Kevin Wright. I've been in Raymond for coming up to about 2.5 years now. I've 17 years with the organization and bounced around a fair bit. So we're going to plant roots in the area for a while. We've been in the Yukon and Vancouver Island, a bit out west before we made our way here. And so I'll be up here for the interim, just filling in for Glenn. And sure, I run the same open door policy as Glenn. If anyone needs anything, don't hesitate to reach out.
Great, thank you. Any questions from council? Pretty simple this morning. Yeah.
Well, we got you. I might just give you a quick update on our building and how that's going, so I think that seems to be the topic of the day. 2 days ago, we received 89 chairs, which is the first big step to us getting going. We can sit on chairs, but we don't have anything in front of us like tables and stuff. We have telephones, but we have no desks or chairs. So with this COVID world, with now what I've been told, furniture shortages due to wood or delays, we're not sure exactly the delivery date on our furniture. And that's right now, I think, the big holdup for us. The infrastructure, for the most part, is in place. The telephones are online, the internet connection, the intranet connection, the alarms, the police radios, all that stuff is either there or scheduled to be coming. So we won't open to the public until we have, obviously, proper furniture in place. I don't have that date. I'm going to estimate probably, maybe towards the end of July type thing. Stay tuned. Our furniture delivery got delayed twice. It was supposed to come 2 weeks ago, and last week, and now this week. So the furniture could probably be the same idea. But once the furniture is up, then we'll do the transition. And as a reminder, what we'll be doing is closing down the Lethbridge building here, bringing everybody in that Lethbridge building over to the new building in Coaldale. We'll be shutting down the storefront in Coaldale. And for the time being, we're maintaining the now 18-month pilot project with the Pitcher Butte detachment. So the Pitcher Butte detachment will be under Kevin's acting role as well. And so we'll always have the two buildings. So Lethbridge County will be policed out of two locations with one detachment commander in charge of both locations. We'll still deploy that zone policing model where we'll have people, members, constables, working 24-hour shifts assigned to one of the three zones, the Pitcher Butte zone, the rural zone, the Coaldale rural zone, or the Coaldale town zone itself. So the moving of our locations doesn't change our how we police, and we'll just stay as she goes. And the positives of the new building are really having that cell block in place, so we don't have to take our prisoners to the Lethbridge Correctional Center. The idea of bringing our support staff together, working more efficient than what we're doing now with having two different sites type thing. So it should be a good progress, a good process, and something very positive for us.
Claus?
Yeah, just Sergeant Glenn Henry. Yeah, the pilot project that you were talking about, Pitcher Butte, it's 18 months old now.
Yes.
And what's the feeling of the RCMP itself, how things are going? Because I know we have more representation there now, that it's basically we have somebody there 24 hours a day instead of a lot less before.
Yeah, so what you're saying is correct. In different term, what you had previous to the hubbing process was you had a member on call during significant amounts of time, usually say about 2 in the morning till maybe 7, 8 in the morning type thing. Someone would be on call, not actually working. With the hubbing process together, we've taken the Pitcher Butte members, added them to the Coaldale detachment shift schedule, so we have one combined shift schedule, and we work 24-hour coverage. So we do have members assigned to all three zones. The update that I provided you, the quarterly update, talks a bit about both from a staffing perspective and also from a financial perspective. From my stance, I think it's better financially that we're not duplicating services. So we're seeing significant cost savings on the operating and maintenance budgets and also on our overtime budgets. We're not paying people on call to be at home waiting for that phone call, we're actually having people working. So I think we're in around that, it's a little bit difficult because we're spending some money on the new building, but I would say it's around $100,000 combined savings between the Pitcher Butte detachment and the Coaldale detachments, and as far as savings with the hubbing aspect goes. To be perfectly blunt, right now, we have some staff shortages in the Pitcher Butte detachment, and we actually only have 2 constables that are assigned to the Pitcher Butte detachment that are operational right now. And you wouldn't know that because it doesn't matter, because we're pretty seamless on transitioning the Coaldale people to the Pitcher Butte back and forth type thing. If Pitcher Butte today was a standalone, we'd be hurting big time. We'd be lacking a supervisor, and again, from the 4 constables that we'd have, we'd only have 2 operational. So it's helping greatly right now, and I think long-term, it's a better model because we can absorb those vacancies, whereas before, 1 person out of 4 or 5 is significant. 1 person out of 22, or 2 people out of 22 isn't as bad. So I think it's a good model. At some point, I guess the management people in the RCMP will have to look at what we're doing. They know what we're doing, but make a decision whether or not this will be more of a permanent process, or maintain the pilot, or go back to the way it was.
Ann?
I just want to say thanks, Glenn. We've worked together for 3 years, and you've always been extremely open to any conversation and a consummate professional. So I really hope you enjoy your retirement, and I'm going to miss you. And welcome, Kevin. We'll be chatting.
I've already briefed Kevin, he knows.
He knows, good.
No, thank you, Ann. And just as a final note, thank you to you folks. You've been very accommodating to myself, and in particular, thank you very much. And it's always a pleasure coming here. It's always a pleasure working with you folks, and I hope that'll continue in the future with our predecessors, and I can't see a reason why it wouldn't. So thanks very much.
The only thing you're going to have, you're not going to have lunch today.
No. No, which is fine. Apparently there's nothing open. Yeah.
Steve? And then Ken?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a question on sort of crime in the last year. With COVID, have you noticed any different stats for, I guess specifically property crime out in the rural areas or anything like that?
Yeah, my last report I talked about that, and we're seeing ups and downs in their different areas. There's no real trends per se, but at the start when COVID kicked in, we saw quite a drop in our rural crime. I think primarily because people were at home, and we're seeing less break enters, less